everybody, it is Napalm Dawn here, taking a look at Marvel Snap as we have a new OTA to go over. That is a over-the-air update. That does not require any updates of your client, whether it is the Steam version or the mobile version. The reason being, OTA means they change things on the back end and the clients don't need any updates. We have my weenie deck here on the screen, and there is a reason for that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get into the changes. So, taking a look at the Marvel Snap February 29th OTA balance updates, let's go ahead and get into it. You can call it a Leap Day OTA, a March OTA, whatever your term is for it. We've got some big changes to talk about. Darkhawk goes from a 4-0 to a 5-4, retains his passive. Forge goes 1-1 to 2-2, retains his passive. Lockjaw goes from a 3-2 to a 4-5, again, same passive. Warlock 2-0 to 5-4. Ant-Man stays cost and power, but he now gains 4 power when the location is full. Chavez drops from a 2-3 to a 1-2, retains her passive. Swordmaster goes from a 3-6 to a 3-7, and Vulture keeps his cost and power, but goes up to +6 power when he moves instead of staying at +5. Now, from what I've seen on community sentiment, people have considered Lockjaw now to be completely dead, unplayable, and likely will not see any use. Adam Warlock, people are exclaiming that the worst card in Marvel Snap has now been buffed, and I have a take on both of those. Let's go ahead and move on. So, Warlock. According to the developers, they have noticed he's been languishing, and he has for some time now. Do you want to go so far as to say he was the worst card? Maybe. Certainly a contender for it. I had a deck with him in it a long time ago and really don't, I hardly ever did that deck. I've tested it a few times. I was like, eh. Going from a 2-0 to a 5-4 severely limits the rounds in which you can gain the extra card. Now, having 4 power means that he can more helpfully, retain a lane by himself or combine with other cards. But you're only getting the extra card in turn 6 unless you're running magic. Now, I find that to be extremely limiting. Turn 6, you're not really always doing a lot of shenanigans in turn 6 that are multiple card drops. You tend to go for your big guys, your Hulk in high evolutionary decks, your Thanos, your Apocalypse, your She-Not with She-Hulk and Infinite. You're tending to do the big drops or the drop that ties everything together, an Onslaught, things like that. So an extra card in turn 6 is a little bit less useful than if you'd been getting it earlier in the match. I think they shot past the mark on this one. I think they were so concerned with taking a powerful entity like Warlock, making him live up to his billing a little bit more, and strapped too many rocket packs to him, too much jet fuel. If he became a 3-3 or a 4-3, I think it would be much, much better than if he was a 5 cost. You have ways around that. He could be used to feed an extra card for Dracula at the end of the game, where maybe you're pulling an extra big card in and you can play a big card and leave one as chow time for Dracula. Wave is another one that I think could help him out. If you get him out earlier, you wave into him and you drop him on 4 and you get the extra card on 5 and 6. That'd be good. And of course, Magic, giving him 2 turns by giving you turn 6 and turn 7. I think it is too far. I think he'd be better at a 3 or a 4 cost. Darkhawk was apparently getting helped by Zabu by getting out around earlier and being cheaper. I kind of think of Darkhawk as an end game card to begin with. He matters more at the end of the game than the middle. So being out earlier, I don't really consider that too big of a factor. However, gaining 4 power as a base is really, really big. So I'm going to call this just a complete buff. Um, he could get Chavez along the way. Uh, Forging him would be next to impossible. Now, maybe that's one of the reasons why they moved Forge around is, potentially in turn 6, surprise Darkhawk, Forge Darkhawk could have been a thing over there, and boosting him a little bit. With being a 5 cost, with Forge being a 2 cost, you can't really do that. Now, he still could get Shuried, though, which is definitely a thing. But I'm going to consider this one pretty much just a straight-up buff. Forge, his combo potential goes down now that he is what extra cost. We just talked about that. He gets out a little later in the game. It is a shame I missed using him in my weenie deck, unfortunately. But he's been dialed back a little bit. It's a nerf. The one power that he gains, I don't think really. I think it's immaterial. Ant-Man getting +4 power if the location's full. Great for weenie decks. Great for a lot of decks like Spectrum and Kazar, as they're talking about over here. I think that's just a straight buff. It makes him more powerful. Chavez dropping down into a 1-2 from a 2-3. This one is up to you. I can't call it a buff or a nerf because it's all on what you want out of Chavez. If you drop her on turn 1, there is way more cards in the deck that she could potentially hit than if she got dropped on round 2. Well, I shouldn't say way more, but a few more. So if you're looking at your hand and you're like, okay, I don't really see anything that I want to gain power, chances are by dropping her on 1, you have more of a shot of hitting the card that you want. However, with having more cards in the deck at the time, she may grant the power to somebody you really don't care about. Or if you're running in a nuisance deck and you have your Scorpions, your Icemans, your Goblins and everything, and you buff a Goblin by mistake, it could backfire. I think she has a good spot now in a weenie deck for sure, and it's just a matter of whether you want to limit the pool of cards that she can buff or you want to increase them. That's personal preference. Lockjaw, I mean, what can we say? Really big on Thanos decks. I don't have Thanos, so my original usage for Lockjaw was, throwing cheapies at him like Wasp, getting big ones like Hulk, She-Hulk, Infinite, that kind of a deal. He now has one less turn in which you can do that. They were calling it basically like energy cheats. I agree with the people that are clanging the bell saying bring out your dead and throwing them on the cart. I think Lockjaw is in fact dead, and I don't think you're going to see Lockjaw that much anymore. The Thanos people are going to have to make some hard decisions now. Swordmaster goes to a 3-7 from 3-6. They were saying it's fairly clear that our simpler discard enablers struggle to remain competitive. I think this is very subjective as to what you would call a simple discarder. To me, Colleen, Sif, Blade, they are the simple ones because you know your targets. There is only one rightmost card in your deck for Blade. You could very conceivably only have one highest cost card in your hand, one cheapest cost card in your hand. Maybe if you got Swarm and Wolverine for Colleen, that's a problem, or Apocalypse and Hela for Sif, it's a problem. But to me, it's simpler because your pool is tighter. Your discard options are tighter. People like Swordmaster, which could discard anything. I mean, imagine Swordmaster in your hand when you've got your Ghost Rider and your Hela. That's really, really scary. Whereas Sif and Colleen make that way more clear, aka simpler. Yes, 3/7 is really, really powerful on the field, but I think the random nature of his discarding, I think it's a buff. I just don't see people adjusting to Swordmaster now. Bolter just gains more power when he moves. He will be out of Shang-Chi range unless he moves twice, which would be the same no matter what power he had. So there's that. Speaking of weenie decks, because we have another mission to do one costers, this is my current weenie deck. My iterations in the past have been, this was my original weenie: Hood, Bass, Nebula, Kitty Pryde, Quinjet, Zero, Maw, Goose, Goblin, Lock, Beast, and Jubilee. Beast for bouncing some of these guys out and back in. Goose for locking down a lane because I don't have expensive cards, so it screws over the enemy, not me. Everybody other than Jubilee would have been coming in under Goose level, so that was good. I then changed my weenie deck to this one where Elsa came in. So Elsa came in for Jubilee and Lockjaw, and this is what I was running at the time: Hood, Pride, Bass, Nebula, Quinjet, Zero, Maw, Elsa, Goose, Goblin, Beast, and Rescue. Rescue came in as kind of a heavy hitter later in the match, as I could likely combo somebody with Rescue there with all these cheap cards. Elsa used to say no matter where the lane was, if you fill it up, the card gets boosted. Well, then Elsa got nerfed. So that changed, and Elsa left the deck, and I put in Black Swan, who reduces the costs of the one carders, or the one powers. So she came in. Now we have Sierra, who can protect them from getting destroyed. We have America Chavez, who can come in here. Sunspot can come in. Ant-Man could come in and do a decent job. Yeah, the Spider-Ham definitely has a position in it. Chavez. Agent 13, not as much, because yeah, she counts as a one drop, but then again, if she gives me somebody too high of a cost over here, Electra could come in for just the destruction. There's a bunch of different things you could do for a functional weenie deck. I don't know why this one wins the way that it does. I think the Goose Green Goblin combo definitely helps a lot, but everybody here is good fodder for Bast, with the exception of Black Swan. Rescue would lose one, and if I had to Bast my Green Goblin, I would try to combo him with Zero. The real combo is Zero Ebony Maw, but Zero Green Goblin, if Basted, is of course a good choice. So that is where the late February, early March OTA is from Marvel Snap. Let me know what you think about what we've talked about. Let me know down below. Do you think Lockjaw is in fact dead? And how you feel about the other changes on this one. Thanks a lot for watching the video. Have a good one.